Okay, for our final segment, we want to talk about how does the human ear work. And in order to do this, I went over to the biology department and I got the big giant ear. So here is a model of the ear. Now, unfortunately, you can see that it's reversed. So it would have been very nice if it could have been like this, but it's not. So as I refer to this picture over here, I'll also refer to this model so that you can kind of see everything in 3 dimensions. So the first part of the human ear is going to be the outer part, this part here, which is going to be called the pinna. So that's going to be this fleshy part of the outside of your ear. So what do you think is the purpose of the pinna? Okay, it acts like a funnel. So you notice that these things are pretty big and they act like a funnel to channel the sound into the ear. Okay, the next part of the ear is going to be the ear canal. So that's going to be this part right here. And so what do you think is the purpose of the ear canal? It's going to be for protection. Because how many of you have ever taken a bobby pin and put it in your ear and accidentally touched the eardrum? It's very, very painful. Now imagine if your eardrum was located on the outside of your ear. That would be very painful if someone just tapped you on the side of your head. So your ear is further into your skull. And so the ear canal is there for protection. It's also covered with wax so that it can catch dust and very small insects, and so they get stuck and die in there, and then eventually all that wax makes its way out of the ear where it falls out. Okay, next is the ear drum. Okay, so in this thing it is going to be this thing here, which I can remove. So that's the ear drum, and it is located at the end of the ear canal. So what do you suppose is the purpose of the ear drum? Remember, it's a drum. So that it's going to take sound waves and convert them into mechanical waves, a different kind of mechanical wave, when they hit the drum. So it's going to cause the drum to begin to vibrate. Okay, then on the other side of the eardrum is going to be 3 bones. So that's this, I can't really take them out, but they're attached to the eardrum here. There are 3 teeny tiny little bones. They're some of the smallest bones in the entire body, and so they're only maybe about that tall, each one of them, maybe about 2 millimeters. So very, very small bones, and there's 3 of them. So the sound from the eardrum is going to first go into one bone, which is going to vibrate, and then that vibrating bone is going to vibrate the bone attached to it, and then that bone is going to vibrate the bone attached to it. Why? Why not have the nerves directly attached to the eardrum? Well, it's again a safety thing. One thing is that the bones amplify sound, so that they act like little levers. Later in the series of videos, we're going to talk about simple machines. And one type of simple machine is the lever, like a crowbar. So that by having these bones, they can help to amplify sounds. But on the other hand, if the sound is too loud, the bones will come apart temporarily. So the bones will disconnect from the eardrum, and then that way, if the sound is too loud, it's not going to damage your hearing. Pretty cool. All right, then on the other side of that is going to be the real guts of your hearing apparatus, and that's going to be called the cochlea. And so the cochlea is going to be this snail shaped organ. And if you were to unroll it, now this is much more complicated than what I'm making it out to be. But imagine that you could take this snail type thing and unroll it, and so the sound is coming in over here. Well, embedded in this cochlea thing are going to be little hairs. And each of the hairs is a different size to it. So why are the hairs different sizes? Because they kind of act like little pendulums. When we talked about harmonic motion, you had pendulums that would swing like this, but then a longer pendulum would swing like this. It would swing slower. So depending on these little hairs that are in the cochlea, they are going to vibrate at different frequencies. So the sound comes in, certain hairs will begin to vibrate when they're being acted upon by the frequency that corresponds to the sound wave. Then as they're moving back and forth, they're going to cause a chemical reaction that generates electricity. And then that electricity is going to go down the auditory nerve to your brain for processing. So those are the major parts of the ear. But I did want to mention a couple of other important parts of the ear. And so one of them is the semicircular canals. So do you see these things right here? And there are three of them. So you've got one of them that is going to be up and down like this. Okay, there's another one that's up and down, but it's going towards you. So it'd be like this. And then there's a third one that is going sideways and towards you like this. So notice that all three of them are perpendicular to each other. So you got one that's doing this. So imagine that's in the plane of my hand. And then you've got another one that's going towards you. So that'd be like this. And then you got a third one that's like this. So three different planes of orientation. Why do you suppose? Well, inside each of these semicircular canals is some liquid. And they act like little carpenter levels. So if you've ever seen a carpenter's level, you know it's got this liquid in it, and then if you move it back and forth, then the liquid changes inside, and then you can tell if it's level or not whenever you get the bubble there in the middle. So similarly, these things can detect whether your head is level. So they can detect whether your head is like this, or forwards, or back, or rotating from side to side. So that's what these things are for. And then what can happen though is if you get a head cold, it can put pressure on these things so that they're not giving the right information, and so that's why you get dizzy whenever you have a head cold. And then another interesting thing is this here is called the eustachian tube, and it goes up behind the eardrum. And so its job is to equalize pressure, so that if there is excess pressure on this side of the eardrum, that's bad. It's going to cause an earache. If there's excess pressure on this side over here, it's going to cause an earache. That's bad. So by having this tube, which empties into your mouth, you can equalize the pressure on your eardrum. And so that's the reason why if you're in an airplane and you're going up, the pressure is changing. And so you might start to notice that in your ears. So what you do is you swallow, and that helps to equalize the pressure. Sometimes this thing gets all stopped up and gets inflamed. It could be swelled shut. It could have stuff in there. And so if that happens and this can't equalize the pressure, you get an earache. So sometimes with babies, what they will do is they will surgically implant a tube in here that will hold open eustachian tube so that they don't get infections as much, or at least when they do get an infection, it doesn't cause an earache. So I would like for you to be able to give me 5 different parts of the ear and then explain what those 5 different parts do. And so I gave you more than 5 as I went through this, but make sure that you know at least 5 different parts of the human ear and then what do they do. All right, so now we are ready. So let me back on here. Okay, so let's take a break, and when we come back, we will do our lesson quiz.